Thank you, thank you, thank you. Inside Out, so good to see you guys. I'm so glad to be back. I was on vacation last week, so if this is your first time, welcome to Inside Out. If this is your second time and you're here last week, it's nice to meet you. My name's Heath. I get to lead Inside Out here at Brownsbridge. And I'm so excited that you decided to join us tonight because we are in week 3 of our summer series called Grow. And it's the 5 things that God uses to grow your faith. If you're here week 1, our good friend Lauren talked to us about how relationships, God uses the people who we are closest to grow us in our faith. If you were here last week, my friend Matt came and he talked about how faith grows when it is active, when it works. And we're gonna kind of build on that a little bit tonight. But first, like I told you a minute ago, I was out last week. I was at the beach, and my wife and I went to the beach, and we have, some of you may know this, some of you may not, we have a almost 4-month-old now. So it was my first time. Yeah, it's cool, yeah. It's our first one, so it's really exciting. I know there's some parents in the back, and you probably remember those days. It's our first vacation, if you can call it that, as a family with the kid. And we went with my wife's brother and his wife, and they have 2 kids who are 6 and 1. And so it was really my first time to understand my dad in a way when he would get back from vacation, and he would say, I need a vacation after that vacation. And I know there's some parents in the room that are nodding and like, yeah, welcome, brother. I had that experience this past week, but I was determined that wasn't gonna define my trip. You know, this was my week off of work, and I was gonna be on vacation. I was like, no, we're gonna have a great time. It is gonna be some work, you know, trying to keep our little one, he's not really old enough to play in the water and stuff yet, so we're trying to keep him shaded and stuff. So I got in my mind, I had this like mission. I'm still gonna have a great time, even though I still have to do all the dad stuff. And so my number one objective was to get down to the beach early in the morning, like every good dad, set up the tent, bring the wagon, you know, with all the chairs in. Like I had this whole thing in my head planned out. So sure enough, we get down there, and the first day, I load up the wagon. I actually had 2 wagons because I'm the most. And so I was dragging them down there, and I get down there, and there's already a tent set up, like right in the prime spot, right in front of like the walkway. I was like, man, that would be perfect because our little guy can't stay out here very long. We're gonna have to go back and forth a lot. I was like, I wish I had that spot. And I was like, you know, it's fine. So I had to go a little further down and set up our camp. Well, the next day, I'm like, all right, somebody beat me to it. I'm gonna get there a little early. I went up 30 minutes earlier the next day. I got out there, man, they were set up again, just right there in that spot. And I was like, who is this like experienced dad that is here that is just like, you know, flexing on me on Father's Day weekend? And he's been here and done this before. And so I was like, fine. So I drug our stuff down further again, set it up a little further away. Day 3, I got there, another 30 minutes. Guys, I'm going out there at like 6:30 in the morning at this point in time. The sun is barely up. I'm taking the wagons, loading everything up, you know, sweating. I'm overcoming every obstacle. It's already 85 degrees outside, and I'm sweating, and I haven't had anything to eat, and I'm just like, man, I get down there, and sure enough, there's the guy. And this time I caught a glimpse of him setting up his tent. And I was like, this guy. But it all made sense to me because not only did I catch a glimpse of him, I got a picture into my future. Because this guy is old enough to probably be one of your dads. If you guys were in Orange Beach last week, I don't know, maybe it was your dad. He had a dad bod, and he was, you know, out there in his like plaid shorts that were way too long, and he was setting up the tent, and he got done, and you know was enjoying his what I'm sure was Diet Coke at 6:30 in the morning, and was just sitting there just drinking it in, and like I'm sitting out there, and I kind of give him the nod or whatever, and he was like, that's a good setup you got there. And I was like, thanks. And I was like, I'm trying to get out here and beat you to it. And he was like, you're going to have to get up earlier than that. And I was like, man, I am getting trash talked by this dad on my first time. And so I began to realize that I had all these obstacles to overcome because once we got down there that day, I actually saw his family with him that day. And, you know, all his kids were older and stuff. And I was like, hey, he has obstacles he doesn't have to overcome. Like, he doesn't have to get up and, you know, fix a bottle and change diapers. Like, his kids are past that stage of life. So he was just waking up and he's like, I'm going to go get the prime spot on the beach. And this rad dad was just, you know, it was killing it. And I was learning that I was like, all right, there's things that I have to overcome that he doesn't in order to get this prime spot on the beach. And what I learned is that everything in life, you know, if you have a goal, if you have a mission, you have an objective in life, there's going to be obstacles that you have to overcome every time. If you think about some of the things, the goals, the missions that you guys have in your lives, if you want to get into that dream college of yours, some of my seniors, I know you guys are thinking college, you want to get into that dream college of yours, some of the obstacles you have to overcome is, you know, hey, can I get in? Do I have the ACT, SAT score to get in? Do I have the GPA to get in? Do I have all the extracurriculars? Like, there are obstacles you have to overcome in order to reach that goal. Maybe some of you are like, hey, this year I'm going to make varsity in my selective sport, but you have to overcome, maybe I have to beat out an upperclassman. Maybe I have to overcome the fact that I don't like to get up and go to morning workouts. Maybe I have to overcome obstacles like, you have to make the grades, or there's obstacles that maybe you have to overcome in order to achieve that. Maybe some of you are more active in plays and stuff, and you're like, hey, I have this dream of being lead in the school play, but they always pick musicals, and I couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. And you're like, that's an obstacle I have to overcome. I have to take voice lessons and work on my singing and try not to get beat out by somebody who's better at that than me. There's always obstacles we have to overcome. And today, as we're thinking about our faith and one of the things that God uses to grow our faith, I think that you're going to find that there are obstacles that you're going to have to overcome when it comes to putting your faith into action. I started thinking about this. There's some practical ways. Where is anybody who just got back from Guatemala? Where's the Guatemala trip? Make some noise. What's up, Guatemala team? What about Lighthouse? Is there any Lighthouse folks that just got back? Make some noise. Great. I wasn't here last week. I know you got shut out last week, but El Salvador, y'all in the house? That's great. Our last team is in Arizona. They come back, I think tomorrow is their arrival day to coming back. So maybe you have a goal that you want to serve. You want to put your faith into action, and you want to go on like a Global X mission trip over the summer. But what are some obstacles you have to overcome? It's got to make sure it's the right week of the summer. You got to raise the money and make sure that you can afford to go. It's got to not hit a family vacation or something that you have to be at. Like, there's these obstacles you have to overcome in order to make that happen. Or maybe for some of you, a faith goal that you have is that, hey, I want to bring my friend. I want them to come and check out Inside Out, have fun with us, jump around, play the game, laugh at whoever's sticking their hand in whatever covered shaving cream that was. I worked up the courage and I invited them one time, and they told me no. So you have to overcome this obstacle of all right, do I try again? Or they're gonna think I'm one of those weird people that just wants to hound them to come to church. They're not a project. I just think they'd really like it here. And you have to overcome that obstacle in order to meet your goal. Maybe for some of you, it's this summer is the first time you've had a summer job. And your parents are like, hey, all right, so you have to pay for your own gas now, or you got to give some money to the church, or you got to use some of the money for a specific thing that you have to pay for yourself. And now all of a sudden, this summer job has become, from something that you were working towards a goal, has now become something that's just paying off obstacles. And maybe if you think about it, for some of you, it's like, hey, I would really like to serve in my church, but I already come to Inside Out in the afternoon. Doesn't mean I have to wake up and come to Brownsbridge in the morning to serve somewhere too. And if you look around, there's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be something you have to overcome to accomplish or reach your goals. In fact, I think a better way to say it is like this. Obstacles can be overwhelming in reaching objectives. You have a goal, you have a mission, you have an objective. You want that prime spot on the beach. You got to beat that veteran dad there. You want to make varsity this year. You got to beat out that upperclassman. If you want to get into that dream school, you got to make the grades. There's always going to be an obstacle in reaching your objectives. And I think the same thing is true when it comes to our faith. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how can we put our faith into action so that we talk about what Matt talked about last week. If faith is going to work for us, we have to put our faith to work. And if you're going to put your faith to work, you're going to have to overcome some obstacles. I think about my life of when I've been challenged to step out and to do something for God, to challenge to step out and make a difference at my church or somewhere for Him. First thing I do is I always rule out why I can't do it. Oh, I can't serve there. I don't have the time. Or, I don't think I can do that. I don't know enough about the Bible, or I haven't grown in my faith enough. Or maybe it's just like, hey, somebody else will do it. I don't have to. Somebody else will step up and do it. I always make these excuses to dodge my obstacles rather than to meet my objectives. And if that's you, and if you can relate today, it's okay. You're in good company, because it's not just me, it's not just you. Today we're going to look in our story in the text today of Jesus' disciples kind of having a very similar instance where they are run into an obstacle and they don't know what to do. And so in this story, Jesus has become pretty famous in his day and time, and he's teaching and he's telling people about how they can know God and how they can follow Him. And he begins to stand up and teach, and he's attracting crowds. And in the story today, it says that he attracted a crowd of over 5,000 people. And so, you can imagine there's a few hundred of us in this room, but if you can imagine, one person, no microphone, sitting outside, because that's the only place that would have been big enough to hold 5,000 people, sitting outside, and one guy just talking and yelling really loudly. And then he's going on all day, and it's become really, really late in the day. Now, I don't know about you guys. Actually, I do know about you guys because I watch you guys every week at Inside Out when we put food out. But if you, gets late enough in the day, people get hungry. I witnessed this firsthand on the beach, especially when you've been outside all day. Y'all know that like coming in from the beach hungry that you get? I don't know about some of y'all. I don't really get hangry. Like if I'm hungry, I'm just like, oh, I need to eat something. Like, okay, no big deal. But like I was there at the beach this week with my wife and her family. And apparently they turn into like velociraptors from Jurassic World when they get hungry, because we came in from one day, we stayed on the beach a little extra time because it was nice weather, and we stayed out there and we came inside and they were just like going at it on this bag of Doritos like we were never gonna eat again. And so maybe that's you, but if that's the case, if you can relate to that, you'll understand the people in the story, because they've been sitting outside in the hot sun all day listening to Jesus teach, very much like you're doing right now. I'm probably making all of you guys very hungry just talking about this. But imagine if it was Jesus and he had you outside talking all day, you'd be getting hungry. And the disciples began to pay attention and they began to notice it. So Jesus' disciples came to him, and this is what they said in Matthew chapter 14, starting in verse 15. They come to Jesus and they say, Jesus, can you send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food? Like the people are getting hungry, the natives are getting restless. We are gonna have to feed them, or they're gonna turn into the velociraptors from Jurassic World, like Heath was talking about. Like these people are about to get hangry. I can already tell they're checking out. People are passing out in the back. We're just dragging them out of here. Like, we got to do something about this. And here's how Jesus responds in the next verse. He says, they do not need to go away. You give them something to eat. Now, I don't know about you guys. I don't think Jesus was trying to intentionally be funny here, but this is a kind of a funny answer. It's like, hey, Jesus, everybody's hungry and tired of listening to you talk. Can you feed them? And maybe they'll stay a little while longer. And Jesus is like, you feed them. I remember like when I was in high school and I'd come to my dad and be like, Dad, I need money to put gas in my car. And that was before gas was $5 a gallon. But I was like, Dad, I need money to put gas in my car. And he's like, you go get your own money. Like you have a car, go get a job. And I was like, no, that's the problem, is I don't have a job and I don't have gas to put in my car that I need now. Like it was kind of this like, he was like, you do it, you handle it, you figure it out. And it always frustrates me when somebody brings me a problem and they just, flips it back on them. It's like, it's not my problem, that's y'all's problem. In Jesus' mind, he's like, the most important thing that some of these people will ever experience is sitting here and hearing the teachings about how they can know God, how they can know their Heavenly Father. So Jesus says, hey, that's not my problem. My mission, my objective here is to tell people how they can know their Heavenly Father. My mission, my objective is not to feed them. You guys do that. You figure it out. And so the disciples have to be like so discouraged because all they can see are the obstacles in front of them. All they can see are the reasons why this is impossible. In fact, this is how they answer him. They say, but Jesus, all we have here are only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Now, if in a few minutes I let you guys go to small group, and you get out of small group, and we all go outside to hang out, and we have the games and stuff, and I had 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and I was like, all right, everybody, eat up. You guys would turn on me, and I would no longer have a job here, in which I really need to provide food for my family. And so you understand the disciples are like, Jesus, we have like 1 kid's lunch. That's all we have. Like, what do you want us to do? How do you want us to figure this? We don't have the money to go buy food for everybody. What do you want us to do here? And the next 5 words that Jesus says change the story completely. Here's what he says. Here's how he responds. He says, bring them here to me. Meaning the fish and the loaves, not the 5,000 people. He says, bring them here to me. He didn't want the angry people. He wanted the fish and the loaves. Because what Jesus is telling his disciples is, hey, all of you guys are focusing on is the obstacle that's in your way, instead of focusing on the tools that you have at your disposal. What he says is, hey, bring me the fish and the loaves. Bring me the tools that you have, even if they're small, even if they're not enough, even if you don't think this is going to work, bring them to me. What Jesus is telling his disciples is essentially this idea right here, is that proximity determines perspective. Proximity means how close you are to something, and your perspective is how you view it. Jesus is saying, hey, you guys are so close to the problem that everybody's hungry and we have no money and we have no food. You guys can relate, right? And so he's like, you're so close to the problem that you can't see the possibility that I can do something really cool right here. Jesus is changing their proximity to get it further away from the problem. Hey, bring me all the stuff you have, and then I want you to watch me. Don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution. Jesus' solution is that he wants these people who have gathered to hear him teach to know him. His solution isn't to feed them. His solution is I want them to know them. The way he's going to do that is he's going to feed them. And so he's shifting the disciples' perspective to not think about feeding people, but to think about letting Jesus do what he came to do. If you're familiar with the story of Jesus, you probably know what's about to happen next. Jesus is going to perform one of his very famous miracles, and this is what it says in the next verse. It says, "And he, being Jesus, directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves." So Jesus takes the small, meager little meal that one kid brought for packing his lunch, and he prayed over it and blessed it in order to give it to the people. And this is what he does next. This is something that I think is so cool, I don't want you to miss it. The next thing he does, then he gave them the fish and the loaves to the disciples. Jesus could have easily been like, "Okay, everybody, now that you're seated, all 5,000 of you, I formed 3 lines right here, and I want you to all come to me, and I'm going to hand you guys dinner because you're so hungry you can't keep listening." Like, it would have been really easy for Jesus just to take full control of the situation. But just like Jesus does each and every day in my life and in so many of your lives, Jesus invites the disciples to come in. He invites the people that could only see the obstacles. "Hey, I want you guys to help me. I want you guys to be a part of this incredible story. I want you to be a part of this amazing experience that you're going to tell everybody about for the rest of your lives." Jesus could have easily done it himself, but instead he invites the disciples to help him and to be a part of what he's doing in those people's lives. Here's what he says. The rest of that verse says, "Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. And they all ate and were satisfied." They were all full. "And the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over." Now, these basketfuls aren't like your Easter basket when you wake up on Easter morning. These are baskets like big 5-gallon drum barrels full of food that are leftovers. We started with not enough. "Hey, we don't have enough." Jesus says, "Hey, bring me what you have, and I'm going to make it work." You see, I think so often in our lives, this is exactly how we approach being a part of what God is doing. For so many of you, if you got the invitation, if you got the offer to come be a part of what God's doing, to come be a part of what Jesus is doing in this place, every one of you, not every one of you, so many of you, your first thing that you're going to go to is the obstacles, the reasons why you can't. "Hey, I can't because, Heath, you don't know how I've messed up. Hey, I can't, Heath, because I just don't have time. Hey, Heath, I can't because I just don't know enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't know enough about the Bible. I'm not deep enough into my faith to help out. I can't. But just like Jesus says to his disciples, he tells you and I each and every day, "Hey, bring me what you have, and let's do this together." You don't have enough time. Okay, a lot of people don't have enough time. That's just called life. Jesus says, "Bring me what time you do have, and let me use it and bless it to help other people." Hey, I don't know enough. That's fine. Bring me what you do know, and let me use it to bless other people. Hey, I don't think that my faith is deep enough. That's fine. Bring me what faith you do have, and let me use it to make a difference in other people's lives. The lesson that Jesus was teaching his disciples that day was this, the same one he's teaching us today. If you keep your eyes on his objectives, if you keep your eyes on what Jesus wants for you and for the people around you, you cannot focus on the obstacles anymore. So keep your eyes on what God is inviting you into and not the reasons why you, quote unquote, can't do it. A few years back when I first got started working with middle school and high school age students, I was not much older than you guys. I just graduated from college and I moved to a new town. I didn't know anybody, so I went to a church, which is a great place to make friends and meet people who are supposed to be nice and kind people. And so I show up there, and the very first Sunday, and I don't think this is a coincidence, the very first Sunday, they're asking for people to step up and help serve and volunteer in the student ministry. And of course, I just graduated from college, and I'm like, well, I don't have time to do this. I have a job. I'm starting grad school. I don't have time for this. Like, of all the days for me to come, it's this day. Great. But the guy on stage, much like me right now, put this quote up. And I don't know who, I tried to find whose quote this was. I couldn't find whose quote it is, so I'm not copywriting. I just don't know who did this. But he put this quote up. He said, "Be who you needed when you were younger." And it was like a punch in the gut to me. Because as soon as I read that quote, as they're asking for people to help step up and serve in middle school, I remembered middle school Heath with his 2 rows of braces across the front of his teeth. And I did all my growing in middle school, but I didn't fill out until like after college. And so I was just this gangly, awkward, isolated, uncomfortable, didn't know who his friends are, didn't know what I was good at. I was like, oh man, middle school was hard for me. And that day, the invitation was for me to not have all the answers, not to have all the free time in the world, not to have the deepest faith of anybody in the room. The invitation was to keep my eyes on God's objective that, hey, there's middle schoolers that need somebody just like you needed somebody when you were in middle school. And I was like, oh, I can totally do that. Now that I understand. And so today, as we kind of conclude, the 5 things that we want you guys to do to grow your faith this summer. We talked about relationships. We talked about putting your faith to work. Today, the thing is God is going to invite you this summer, today, in the near future. God is going to invite you to do more, to step up, to lead, to serve, to be who you needed when you were younger. In fact, today, in a few moments, we're going to talk about this, of some ways that you can do this. But I want you to begin to think about not what are the obstacles preventing you from doing this, but what are the opportunities that you may have because you say yes to God, allowing you to be used in your life. So in order for me to illustrate this, I think this has been a fun thing that we've done over the last few weeks this summer, is I'm going to invite up my friend Tyler Robbins. If you guys will give it up for Tyler Robbins. Tyler is going to join me, and she's going to talk a little bit about this, how this has really played out in her life. Thank you guys for the stools. This makes it way better, especially when injuries are involved, right? So, Tyler, thank you so much for being here today. Tyler, I've already told them your name, but will you kind of introduce yourself, tell them where you go to school, what grade you're going to be in, and tell them where you serve here at Brownsbridge.
So I'm going to be a senior this year, and I go to Alliance, and my small group is April, Amy, and Kathleen.
Yep. Who are sitting right here, if you can't tell.
And I serve in Upstreet.
Upstreet, that's so awesome. Upstreet, who all serves in Upstreet? Make some noise. Love hearing that, love hearing that. All right, so today we're talking about serving and how we can look at the end goal and not the obstacles in our way. So how did you get involved serving in Upstreet? Like, did you just walk in one day and they just threw you in a room, or did you sign up? Like, how did you get started serving in Upstreet?
So I had been wanting to serve in Upstreet for a while, and then one day my friend Emily invited me and brought me to Upstreet with her, and I immediately fell in love with it and just felt like it was home.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you had a friend that was already serving in Upstreet, and then you got there and you're like, oh wow, this is perfect for me. That's incredible. So what was your, like, when you walked in there, what was your, like, hey, this is what God's calling me to do here? Like, what was like the word I used today was objective. Like, what was your mission? What was your goal in serving in there?
So I wanted to help kids learn that God is with you through everything and everything in your life, no matter what's happening and what the circumstances, because it took me a long time to learn that, and I feel like learning that early is really helpful. That's
great. So I guess you could say you decided that you were going to be who you needed when you were younger. Man, it's almost like I planned that. Thank you for highlighting my last point there. So how has your experience in Upstreet, how has serving there, how has that helped you grow in your faith? Like, how is it, how have you benefited from that? Obviously, you've invested into kids that go here to Brownsbridge and their families that go here, but how have you individually grown because you serve there?
So everybody that I serve with has really just welcomed me in and treated me like family, and it really helps when it's like your small group. It becomes your second family, and they are with you through all of it, and they're there to give you advice and help you and just be with you no matter what.
And that's a really great point. I think for so many of you guys in the room, especially if you're an upperclassman in the room and you've been in your small group for a couple years now and you're kind of like, hey, I love these people, and these are my people, and they know all my secrets and stuff, but I kind of want to hang out with some new people. Like, serving is a great way to do that. You kind of get to make some new friends, kind of mesh the new and the old together. That's really awesome. What were some of the obstacles that you faced in serving? So you got the opportunity to be, kind of there for a bunch of kids and teach them that God loves them, but what were some of the things you had to kind of overcome in saying yes to serving in Upstreet?
So in the beginning, it was really just like waking up and being here really early on a Sunday morning. But as I served longer and longer, it became more of something that would help me work through my obstacles in life and a family of people that would help me through it instead of coming to Upstreet being the obstacle.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. What is one thing that you feel like you've been able to experience, or a story? I mean, I don't know. I know we were talking earlier, and I told you we were doing the Jesus Feeds the 5,000. You said y'all just did that in Upstreet too, so that's pretty cool. So I don't know that that's happened. I don't think y'all fed 5,000 kids with 2 fish and 5 loaves in Upstreet. But what is one pretty cool thing that you have seen God do because you've gotten a chance to serve there?
So since I serve in tech, we're not directly with the kids most of the time, but just being able to give them a better experience and help everybody on stage and all the stories come to life has been really cool. And I think when everything comes to life and there's lights and everything moving around, it really helps them to be more engaged and want to keep coming back every week.
I love that. I love that you got the opportunity to kind of serve behind the scenes in tech, because I think a lot of times we think about serving has to be so upfront and like, in front of the kids, or, hey, I can't do that. But you're like, hey, I work behind the scenes and I set up the people who do that really well. And I think the really cool thing about our environments like Wambaland and Upstreet is that we have opportunities for people just like all these people sitting in the room, just like you, Tyler, to serve, not just like, hey, I don't know that I want to hang out with kids. You're like, hey, I don't really. Like, I lead behind the scenes, or hey, some of you guys can sing, or you can be up on stage and do like what I do, and you're like, hey, I would like to do that. Well, the best opportunity, the best way to get good at that is practice. And so to take advantage of those opportunities, to work behind the scenes, there's a whole army of people back there that make me look really cool up on stage every week working behind the scenes, and they hate it when I talk about them, but that's fine. You can all turn around and look at them now. That would be great. Perfect. Thank you, guys. All of you just did that in unison. That was perfect. So is there anything else you would say, like, hey, this experience has been great for me, or any other advice that you would give to someone who isn't serving, but maybe today after hearing this, you're like, oh, I could do that, or I could help in some kind of way, and maybe it's in Upstreet, or maybe you like those smaller kids and they want to go to Wambaland. Like, what advice would you give somebody who's kind of not serving but maybe thinking about it today?
I would say definitely go and try it out and learn more about what they do, because no matter what skill sets you have and what you can do, there is always a place for you to help, and you can always do something to help make the experience better for the kids and just to show them truly who God is.
That's awesome. There's always a place for you to jump in and help. That was really well said. Y'all give it up for Tyler. That was awesome. All right, so in a couple of months, our good friends down the hall at Upstreet and Wambaland specifically are going to be looking for people to step up and help. They need small group leaders. They need tech people like what Tyler does. They need people who can be on stage and sing and dance and be funny and silly. So if that's you, probably some of you guys, I watch y'all sing and dance all the time. If that's you, here's what I would like you to do. I'm going to throw a QR code up on the screens for you guys. Yeah, there's one right here by Tyler too. If you're interested at all in just checking it out, like Tyler said, if you would take a picture of that, if you know you've got that personality, that you can hang out with kids, you want to be the person that you needed when you were younger. If you're a freshman and you haven't served anywhere before, this is a great first step for you to jump in and serve. If you're an upperclassman and you haven't served and this is one of your last years in Inside Out, this is a great opportunity for you guys to jump in and serve. They need each and every one of you to find your place and help. Our friends at Wambaland also need help. They need people who are up on stage and can sing and dance and be silly. How many of you guys serve in Wambaland? Make some noise. All right, all my Wamba volunteers, I see you. I appreciate you. They also need some help. I think they're going to throw that QR code up on the screen. Oh, that's already up there. Thank you. Same one. Oh, man, that makes it easy. Awesome. I've been on vacation for a week, and it shows. Awesome. Same QR code. If you guys will fill that out, somebody from one of their teams will be in contact with you. I would love for each and every one of you guys to grow in your faith, because you begin to think about how other people experience Jesus. And I think that's one of the great opportunities that Tyler gets to do each and every week when she serves in Upstreet. And I think each and every one of you have the opportunity to do if you're not already serving somewhere. All right, here's what I would like us to do. Tyler, I would love for you to close us out in prayer. After you get done praying, I have a couple of announcements before everybody goes. So after Tyler prays for us, if you guys will just stay seated. But first, will you bow your heads, link up to the folks next to you, show them some love, and Tyler's going to lead us in prayer. Go ahead, Tyler.
Hey God, thank you so much for bringing everybody into this room today, and thank you for giving our baptism families and those who are baptized the chance to show that they love Jesus and that He is their Savior. Thank you so much for bringing us all together, and I just pray for the small groups and for everybody, and that we can all have great conversations, and everybody who has been hesitant to serve and hasn't really found a way in can get their way in and go for it, because it is amazing. So thank you so much. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well said, Tyler. Good job.